Hello, my friends, and welcome to the feature match area here for GP Lille. The stars are out tonight, I can tell you this. The world champion, Javier Dominguez, is ready to get amongst it in the feature match area here. And Julien Leloch also on Golgari mid-range. These two are playing very much the deck du jour. And, a perfect draw from Dominguez there. The turn 2 lane or else, Simon.
Yeah, I can imagine that Twitch chat is super happy right now. The first Golgari mirror of the tournament.
Yes. They've been waiting a long time.
But honestly, like I was saying, this is not a matchup that is decided quickly. So we might even have the opportunity to see how a world champion attacks this kind of mirror match, because he knew that he would have to face those mirrors. Actually, and this was always my approach. I like tier 1 decks more than the rogue strategies. But if you go to GP Lille, if you go to GP New Jersey, if you're heading to the Pro Tour, you need to have a plan for the mirror. Actually, that's how Javier became the world champion.
Can I check in with you here? I don't want to embarrass myself too much. This is the first standard GP since rotation.
Yes.
This is the first time that we've seen standard on the big screen.
On the GP level.
On the GP level.
And we didn't have a Pro Tour like what we would have had in the past.
I'd like to read out a comment that was made on Twitch chat by esteemed viewer, Skepti. They say, "I'm sick of this green-black bullcrap."
Well, that's like the first match we're showing.
We're about 30 seconds into this green-black bullcrap. I tell you what, my friend, you better shape up, because there's a lot more coming your way from where it's from. If 30 seconds of it is too much for you, I don't know how to please you, my friend. I don't know how to please you. In any case, Midnight Reaper is a bit of a tech card here from Julien Leloch. I do like it. There's a high density of cards that you're looking to trade off, Merfolk, Branchwalker, and the like, and this card really pays you in kind for making those aggressive trades, contesting the battlefield effectively.
Basically, Golgari midrange has a lot of creatures that generate value on their own. A lot of them with the Explore mechanic, of course. And then Midnight Reaper is kind of not generating the value itself directly, but it gives you extra value from the creatures you want to be playing anyway.
And this deck is all about value. I think that's probably the best way to frame what this deck is trying to do. It accrues incremental value from all of the cards that it plays, whether it's stuff like Vivian Reed, Ravenous Chupacabra, Izoni, what have you. They all provide value in different increments, right? Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating to see the way that these matches pan out as well. The other thing about this is very important to note. It's difficult to draw clear distinctions between the different versions of Golgari midrange, but within the macro archetype, there are several micro archetypes. You can read about this. There's a lot of literature on this topic online. Whether you play the Explore package with Wild Growth Walker, how heavily you commit to removal. We can lump all of these Golgari decks together, but there's a lot of granularity with the individual lists themselves.
Still quite a lot of variation, given that this is such a young format. And you can actually see here why Julien was happy, or at least offered the trade there with his Midnight Reaper, because he got it back right away with Golgari Findbroker.
Carnage Tyrant here is a huge heavy hitter against the control decks of the format, and we see Golgari midrange committing to it pretty heavily with 2-3 copies in some lists even, and I think it's a good inclusion. It's very difficult for the white blue base decks to deal with. And
also on this battlefield, it's quite a nice card. So Carnage Tyrant is aggressively costed. 6 mana for such a package is fine, and the rest of your deck, you don't really have that many heavy hitters. So
it's all that value game, right?
Yeah, you want to benefit from that value with the more high impact cards.
Ooh, hello. Look at this. Here's a play that I wasn't expecting to see.
And that means,
in my life.
That means Plaguecrafter is coming, right?
Yeah, right.
But what do you sacrifice?
Oh, the Vivian or the Carnage Tyrant. A difficult decision here for Dominguez. I mean, he's the man for the job, the current world champion, of course.
You sacrifice the Vivian Reed. So getting rid of that Lana Valve, of course, did make the decision harder. But ultimately, I don't think it will work out. It's almost like a Jedi mind trick in the sense that you are saying, I killed your creature.
Yeah.
So
now you got to kill the other one.
Now surely you're going to sacrifice the Carnage.
Yeah. And in the Playcraft even looks like a bit of a Sith Lord. Look at him there.
True.
Yeah.
early Sith Lord.
Early on. We're talking like Knights of the Old Republic era, before they really got sort of into the gaudy, sort of black.
But he knows what
Mum,
what
it's not just a phase type clothing,
But he knows what his future holds.
Yes. He he's come in with a bang and gone straight back out on that same bang there. Rutagan has just given me the live long and prosper fingers, which I'm immensely displeased by. We will have words about this later, my captain. Now, Carnage Tyrant well and truly dominating this battlefield here. Dominguez looking to commit further as well. You can see a couple of Explore creatures in hand, but it's a 3-drop that he's going for on the form of Midnight Reaper.
Yeah, he revealed that off his first Vivian Reed activation. So now he has the benefit of getting value whenever a creature does. I'm surprised that Julien allowed the Midnight Reaper to die so easily. When he had 2/3 power creatures and the Vivian was on 6 loyalty, of course it's attractive to attack with both because you deal some damage to Vivian, but ultimately trading your Midnight Reaper 1 for 1, that was in quotes because you get to draw a card, but I just think you shouldn't be exposing it in combat.
Things are going really well for Dominguez right now. He is ahead on the value game. He's ahead on the board, and it's all coming up Dominguez. But the Spaniard is, what is it like, Simon? What do you think it's like coming into a tournament like this after being at potentially what might be the apex of your career? You've got to deliver, right?
Yeah, but there are much worse things than going into a tournament being the world champion.
I guess so, but still, I wonder how much that's influenced Dominguez's, thinking over the last couple of weeks, and I wonder how his psychological game has changed after his enormous triumph in Las Vegas. Here's Vivian Reed for Julien Leloc.
I'm sure that it did influence, his life plans and his plans for the whole season. But now he's in round 4 of a European GP. He's just gonna play this Golgari deck to the best of his abilities. He will know where to get those small edges, in particular with how to deal with Planeswalkers, Carnage Tyrants, and I think Midnight Reaper being an absolutely crucial Game 1 card here.
I guess we should also talk about the psychology of poor old Julien Leloc. This is not who you want to face after a 3-0 start to your tournament, who undoubtedly one of the best players in the known universe.
And
all the same. I respect the way that he's plays. I don't think he's put too much of a foot wrong. Trading off that Midnight Reaper perhaps, but he certainly knows his eggs. You can tell that.
Oh, absolutely. And he's also at 3-0 without 3 buys, I assume. So ultimately, Javier Dominguez, I think, did a tremendous job at Worlds by just identifying that winning the Black-Red Mirror is giving him the best chances of winning the tournament.
And he might be on the same thing this weekend.
Yep.
Winning the Golgari Mirror.
And I have to say, I like pros that are... It's almost like a very simple strategy, right? Just crash the mirror, and that will give you the highest percentage chance of getting through this tournament.
The lock lines up his blocks. And it looks like there are going to be some trade skis here. And they're going to favour Leloc as well, although Dominguez does get to draw some cards. So, again, the value train just cannot stop. No brakes on this value train.
Yeah, but there has to be some follow-up here.
Llanowar Rolls in hand, freshly drawn. Bunch of lands as well. Look at this. Or Vraska's Contempt.
Find Finality, maybe?
Well, for 3 mana, we're going to kick things off now with the Jade Light Ranger. Explore number 1 reveals a Vraska Golgari Queen. See what Dominguez thinks about that. Yep, he's happy to keep it on top. That means 2 counters because the second Explore trigger reveals the same card. Llanowar Rolls to follow it up, and that nice and neatly leaves up a Vraska's Contempt for Dominguez. Or he could choose to invest that 4 mana straight away. Going to get rid of that Vivian Reed before it can cause any more trouble.
Yeah. And now Javier actually has, with this hyper-aggressive attack, he did 2 things. He brought Julien down to 3. So that Carnage Tyrant is super scary. And also he kind of drew out of that mana flood. Because his hand didn't have a lot of action.
Very good point.
So he actually replaced the 2 creatures he had with more gas. The Jade Light Ranger in particular is basically a guarantee that you're going to have action.
Yeah, it gives you a very good shot of finding the cards that you need in a particular setting. And this is something we're seeing more and more of in green, interestingly. It's something that traditionally held domain in blue. You know, the card filtering effect, being able to churn through velocity, we sometimes call it, in terms of being able to churn through cards in your library. But these powerful explore creatures in green and I guess a little bit less in black are kind of turning that paradigm on its head a little bit, Simon.
Absolutely, yes. And in the past, we had cards like Harmonize. So green was already dabbling with getting to draw cards, but green as a creature color really wants these value effects on creatures.
Yeah.
So that everything works together. The ramp, the card advantage, and then also the fatties, the big creatures. So a very different value game from blue.
So Jade Light Ranger picks up a couple of counters, leads a Golgari Find Broker on top of the deck. But here is Dominguez now with Find Finality, and it looks like it's going to be a big old finality here. Going to tear apart Lilloch's board.
It's also probably a lethal attack here.
I mean, I would have to say so, right? All these creatures having a real problem now to in terms of staying alive, and then attacking with Jade Light Ranger, Carnage Tyrant. Enough here for Dominguez to get himself across the line. An immensely convincing performance from the world champion here. And Lilloch has just got to take his licks and go to sideboarding. But look, full credit to him. His draw wasn't as potent as Dominguez. His play was still pretty top-notch, I have to say. But look, hats off to Dominguez, comfortably winning game number 1.
On the power of Carnage Tyrant. So the dinosaur not only a huge trump in the control matchups, but also a key to winning the mirror match. Javier basically it's not even putting all eggs in one basket because it has hexproof, but you could see that everything he did just revolved around sticking Carnage Tyrant and dominating the board with it.
I'm surprised by this. To be honest. I know that Carnage Tyrant is obviously fantastic against Teferi decks. Anything that's, whether it's Esper, Jeskai, Blue-White, what have you, it's fantastic, especially with the downtick we're seeing in Settle the Wreckage. Sort of just very quickly, I think it's worth pointing out that Settle the Wreckage is in a much worse spot than it has been recently, Simon. Not tapping out on turn 4, keeping your mana open on turn 4 is a much less attractive proposition when you don't have the power of Glimmer of Genius. I mean, there's Chemist's Insight, but still, Settle the Wreckage is not what it was. And so as a result, Carnage Tyrant becomes even better. But the problem here is, well, I guess it's not a problem when you're playing the card. It's all of a sudden very good in the mirror. And this isn't something I anticipated.
No, but you could see it here. The creatures of Julien were just not powerful enough to even go into combat with the Tyrant. And that's also why we saw this aggressive attack with 3 creatures. Even though 2 of them died on the attack, it just made sure that there was no way that Carnage Tyrant was getting blocked. So Javier knew that Julien would go down to 3, and when you're on 3 and facing a Carnage Tyrant, suddenly your options, and that's what we talk about a lot, is how many options do you have available, because it's kind of a measure of how good your options are. And suddenly your options are just down to, that is the one block I can still make and survive.
And being able to corner an opponent sort of entrap them in that way is critical. You see some masterful tongue work here from Dominguez. He's known for it, trademark there, and it really gets him in the space he needs to be in to win games of Magic. So good to see that powerful stuff from him. But very surprising to me is the fact that Carnage Tyrant, in a creature-based matchup, these decks don't play a lot of removal, in a creature-based matchup, is able to shine. Because you'd think, put a dumb 7/6 trampler in there, block it, double block it, kill it, get it out of here. But as you say, Dominguez was able to overload not the removal of Lilloch, but just board presence, essentially, and leverage the 7/6 enormously. I'm surprised. I'm looking forward to seeing the role that Carnage Tyrant has to play, not just in this format, but specifically in this matchup.
Yep. And it dominates Vivian Reed and the other Planeswalkers quite nicely as well. All of the pieces make sense when you see it play out like that. Meaning that Carnage Tyrant is just a great choice for the metagame right now.
Well, I'll tell you what. You're not going to get a more finely tuned list than the one in the hands of Javier Dominguez, of course, the world champion, the 7th ranked player in the world as far as standings go. And of course, there's a lot to learn from this fellow as we see him get ready for game number 2, shuffling up, presenting, and we will check in with their opening hands here. And Lilloch also playing 2 copies of Carnage Tyrant, or Tyrant du Carnage, as it's written on his deck list.
Dominguez has 3 in the main.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by this.
No.
Not anymore. Not anymore. This
no
card,
questions asked.
Nope. Seems very, very good. Big dumb 6-drop. The kids of the kids around the world are very happy to see cards like that being played. It's the lock with the first play, however, with a Wild Growth Walker here.
One last comment about counterstone. The thing with double blocking, if you don't have a Death Touch creature or something like that, you're always running into those removal spells.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is one of the most problematic things.
So Wild Growth Walker immediately jumps up to a 3/5. This is a huge play here for Leloch. Momentum well and truly on his side. Picks up a couple of lands as well with his Jadelight Ranger. Oh, look at this.
That is quite the turn.
Jadelight Ranger from Dominguez. He's going to bin a Merfolk Branchwalker, draw a card. Snags himself a little 3/2. But this is a sticky wicket here for the Spaniard.
I really don't like the 3 forests. That is a problem because Chupacabra is going to be delayed.
Oh, that's true. And that, of course, is a nice clean answer for what's going on here, especially now as Leloch gets another Jadelight Ranger down. Look at this. A 5/7 Wild Growth Walker on turn number 4. Leloch looks up at Dominguez and says, mate, how you like these apples?
Yep. And even the math, the comment math works out nicely because now you can offer a 2/1 trading into a 3/2, and Javier kind of has to take the damage from the 2/1 because he doesn't want to, well, he wants it to trade with the 4/3 on the other side of the board, but at the same time there's the threat of Vraska's Contempt just taking out your Ranger, so it's pretty miserable.
Oh, and even more miserable is this Memorial to Folly. Dominguez does have the Chupacabra in hand, but recognizes that is all she wrote for this game because Leloch on 32 life behind an enormous pile of beaters here. And Javier Dominguez just had this one stolen right out from under his snoot.
Yep. Didn't waste any time.
No, not at all.
He even knew about the Vraska's Contempt, so there was really nothing he could do.
No, and as it goes there, Leloch avenging his his early game loss. The Frenchman really rallying quite spectacularly there on the back of the Wild Growth Walker. Let's talk about the Explore package in this Golgari mid-range list, Simon. It's a very important component of the value engine of the deck. It's something that enables not just nice smooth draws, but also has some very powerful consequences with the synergies that are available.
In particular on turn 2. I think in the later stages of the game, it's not a great draw. Dominguez plays 2, which I think is a fine choice. And I've been looking forward to ask you about Julien's deck list as well.
Yeah.
How many Wild Growth Walkers does he play?
He's playing 4. He is playing 4. So obviously relying very heavily on these Explore triggers, Simon. I've absolutely got you. I've absolutely done a number on you because look at him. He's sitting here. This smug fellow to my right.
I think you're just bluffing.
I'm not bluffing.
There's no way you can know all these French
Okay,
card
I'll just
names.
let you know, my friends, that Julien Leloch has submitted his deck list in French. All of the cards are written in French except for Vivian Reed, which is written in English. And I will tell you now, 100%, that he has 4 Wild Growth Walkers because he's got this one that I'm pointing to, which I don't want to pronounce but in case I get it wrong. Marche Branche Odin?
Oh, the Branche.
Oh, no, that's Merfolk Branchwalker. Is that maybe Merfolk Branchwalker? Oh, no. Have I embarrassed myself here? Have I embarrassed myself? For the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen, have I said something incorrect on stream? It's never happened before. It's never happened before. We need our resident Frenchman. Oh, Moraine can speak French. He can let us know, perhaps. Oh, I got it wrong.
Of course you did.
I got it wrong. The Marcheur Pousseur Sauvage. He's playing 2. Okay, well. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being so supportive and helpful throughout my coverage career, but it all ends today. Never happened. Ladder rolls to kick things off here for Dominguez after an awkward start with the Woodland Cemetery. Just hasn't been able to find the way to get that elf into play on turn number 1. And here is the Marche Branche Odin. That might not even be it. I'm very worried right now.
I think that should be it.
6 years of primary school French obviously really didn't do too much for me, huh?
Really? 6 years?
Yeah, man. I still know all the animals, like the le cochon.
Oh, the sounds the animals make.
Le cheval. They do make different noises in French. We see Ravenous Chupacabra here. Like mice don't say squeak, squeak. They say peep, peep.
Yep.
Yeah. Ducks say coin, coin.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, it's quack, quack. But it's spelt coin, coin. Midnight Reaper as well here for Dominguez. He's really developing his board very convincingly.
Clearly a much better start as well.
Yeah,
Llanowar
for sure.
Elves and Black Mana curving out nicely. And look at his hand.
Yeah, what do we got going on in here?
Vraska's Contempt, Vivian Reed, and Find Finality. So he has the early drops, but he also has the late game.
Yeah, if he finds a couple more lands off the top of the library, we're going to be doing very well. But a Ravenous Chupacabra is going to remove this Midnight Reaper from play. We've seen the Reaper do a little bit more work than I thought. I thought it was a little bit more of a niche card, but it's been a real role player.
And this is because you're playing a mirror match with maybe 5-6 cards difference.
Yeah.
Every card that your opponent gets for free is just huge.
2 copies in the deck of Julien Leloch. And 2 copies also for Javier Dominguez. And we've seen it really shine.
He has
this matchup.
Maybe he brings in a third one.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call. Yeah. I mean, there's a second one in the bin now. Doesn't want to draw it this time around.
He needs a few lands.
He needs lands. Finds a Memorial to Folly. So that's his 5th land. Getting closer and closer to those big, hard-hitting heavyweights in his hand. Back to Leloch now.
The two cards that can really turn the game around in this matchup are the 6 drops. We've talked about Carnage Tyrant a ton, but also Finality, I think, is just one way to offset a lot of the advantage that has been generated.
So the Chupacabra now. It's difficult. It's funny because you can't even call that a 1-for-1 trade. It's super weird. The Chupacabra killed something when it came in, but the Merfolk Branchwalker, the Jade Light Ranger drew a card, and
back in the day it was a lot easier.
oh, back in the day, Simon, when everything was just a 2/2 for 4.
Yeah, if you were lucky.
If you and we were thankful for it.
That it didn't have a downside.
Exactly. These days, kids these days with their value creatures and their Snapchat, Simon, I don't know what the world's coming to. So Vivian Reed now, the play for Dominguez on a, not quite uncontested board.
Oh, but
here are some 4-mana 2/2s, actually. These guys are pretty good.
Just Dominguez is actually happy with the land here, and that's very smart. He knows that he has Memorial to Folly, he has Finality, and he has a lot of expensive stuff. What he needs is to make sure that even if his Llanowar Elves dies, that he has more things to do, because otherwise he could just be starved this game. For example, kill the Llanowar Elves, get the Vivian down to 2, and suddenly you can't come back.
So Dominguez down to 10 now. Looks like the Chupacabras are going to get their dinner elsewhere because of Vraska's Contempt is the follow-up for Leloch. So that explains the lack of attacks against old mate Viv. Back to Dominguez now. And as you say, he's happy to find lands because he's never going to run out of action. He's got Find Finality, he's got Memorial to Folly. There's plenty of fuel left in the Bowser here. Here is Find Finality. Going to bring back Carney T.
Maybe a Midnight.
And JDR, yes, here we go. And that immediately enables the Jade Light Ranger, and Dominguez may just immediately start looking for more lands here. Yeah, look at that. Makes a lot of sense.
And this is the value engine that even control decks are scared about.
Yeah, for sure. So, Dominguez plays that land that he found. In hand, I see a Llanowar Elves, Vraska's Contempt, Midnight Reaper there, Find Finality as well as that Carnage Tyrant. Hand looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Hand looking pretty good to contest the late game, Simon.
What Dominguez does here is he doesn't expose his second Llanowar Elves, because it wouldn't play an important role on this board.
Mm-hmm.
But if that gets wiped, for example, maybe he wants to drop the Llanowar Elves next to the Carnage Tyrant as an extra backup to Plaguecraft, or just a little bit of a defensive move.
Something very important to note there. I mean, he'll get those edges wherever he can. You can be sure of that. Bet your bottom dollar on Dominguez playing near perfect Magic. Leloch now. Golgari Find Broker. What is this broker going to find? Another Chupacabra. And a Merfolk Branchwalker is a nice play for Leloch. He's just a fraction of a second off the pace here.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit behind. And again, I don't know that that's necessarily due to any fault of his. It's so hard to see, right? The incremental advantage this deck gains is so tiny.
That's actually a topic that interests me a lot. It's about what players of different skill levels can realize about what happens in a game and why certain things happen. And the problem for us, but also for the players, for the viewers, for everyone playing these mirrors, is how do you actually see where somebody did something better? Because it's not these obvious things where if Sphinx's Revelation resolves, then the player did something great.
Yeah.
If they go into a counter war and it doesn't resolve and they get punished, it's also clear that they made the game-losing mistake. But here it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
It's a lot more
opaque.
Yeah.
It is a game of inches, not miles. And we'll see that, I think, throughout the weekend. And Simon, coming into this round, something that you pointed out was in decision-heavy games, in longer games that rely on interactive spells, on value-oriented creatures, on contesting both the battlefield, the hand, and the graveyard, the better players will necessarily flourish.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. Javier is actually not... He doesn't have a difficult task here because he knows exactly what he's doing. He's always going for that Carnage Tyrant as his late game, and then Finality is the nail in the coffin. Because all those creatures and the little advantages are basically erased by that. It's a two-card combo.
And now we're seeing exactly this take place once again. Here is Finality. And we'll see if it is indeed the Finality in this situation here for Leloc as he picks up all of his creatures. This one's dead as well, my friend.
Yep.
-4, -4.
And Julien, even if he has more of those Find Brokers in hand, by the way, Javier only playing one of them, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win by chaining 3/4s.
No, how can he rebuild and beat this card? I like you mentioned before Sphinx's Revelation, right? You cast it, you resolve it, you win the game. Simple as that. And we see Dominguez now again protecting himself from a playcrafter here with
and that's the
Lana
Lana Ralphs. He didn't drop 2 turns early.
2 or 3 turns.
2 or
ago.
3, yeah.
Carnage Tyrant is in a lot of senses the final word, right? It is the Sphinx's Revelation in this situation, because if you can resolve one and stick it and put it to good use, it's going to be impossible for Leloc to answer. Because again, what are you doing? Chaining 3/4s? I mean, sure, in a long drawn out value game, that's incredible. That's an incredible value engine to get going. But Dominguez is kind of skipping right to the end here. He's not worrying about flying cars in the Forbidden Forest. He's heading straight to Sirius Black being rescued, the good bit.
And it makes sense because you want to go from the early game to the mid game to the late game, where your game-winning combinations take place. And it almost feels like Julien, with his deck building, with his game plan, with how these games have played out, he's kind of stuck in this middle game where he's still generating value, and Javier is saying, look, you can generate value all you want.
But we're in the end game here. Oh, I'm in the end game.
Yeah.
You want to come and hang out with me? No, that's fine. I'm going to beat your face in with a huge dinosaur. Just like Richard Garfield intended to, as we see. Ravenous Chupacabra get rid of the Jade Light Ranger. Golgari Finebroker, the only play left on the side of Leloc, and Dominguez is just... This is Carnage.
Yeah.
He is the tyrant of the Carnage.
By the way, these two counters are perfect for Carnage Tyrant on Carnage Tyrant Violence.
Oh, of course.
It's exactly the boost that you need to punch through.
Even a Carnage Tyrant of Leloc would be, not so much a Carnage Tyrant, a Carnage Petty King. A Carnage Duke, in fact. And that's enough there for Dominguez to lock up a win very convincingly indeed. We saw Leloc do a great job in game number 2 after an early start with his Wild Growth Walker there, but ultimately not enough for him in game number 3 as, again, I think it's really important to note here, we spent a lot of time talking about the value engines and the value-oriented approach of this Golgari deck, but ultimately Dominguez punching through to that late game a little bit ahead of schedule. Carnage Tyrant taking both games 1 and 3. Maybe this is the way to break that mirror.
Put yourself in Julian's position, who played well. I don't think
full credit to him.
He played
No,
badly.
Absolutely not.
But put yourself into his position. You, the viewers, everyone. What if when he stands up now? What does he tell himself?
What does he take away from that?
Yeah. What should he say?
Yeah.
Why did I lose this game? How do you learn from this experience? I think that's a super interesting thing to ponder.
Well, we'll have more discussion, of course, at Black-Green mid-range. I'm sure it's not the last we've seen of the deck throughout the weekend. But right now, my friends, we've got to take a break. We've got some ads to show you. And then after that, we'll be back with Time Walk Magic to close out coverage of round number 4 here at the Pro Show at GP Lille. We're going to take a quick break, as I say. After that, we'll be back with more Magic. We'll see you then. Welcome back to the tournament floor here at GP Lille, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up your way from the, top right-hand corner of France. My name's Ryan, and I'm joined by Simon Gertz, and that's if we go, of course, with Northern Hemispherical geography, which is my least favourite type, of course. But in any case, we've got some Time Walk Magic lined up. We are going to check in with some of the other players that are that have been in the feature match area this round, including Andrea Mengucci. Gucci Boy's been getting it done. A lot of big names in the room so far. This tournament, I think, sold out, or very close to it at least. So Europe's finest, all assembled here.
And we didn't have a few weeks of we had a few weeks without events,
Mm-mm.
so I think it makes sense that Lille is high on these people's lists. It's also a really nice city to visit.
It is indeed. If you haven't been to Lille, I highly recommend it as a destination. The city itself has really got that old world European charm, twisting tiny streets with beautiful buildings and old churches and all of that sort of stuff. And
Good,
of course,
good food.
well, that's less important for me, of course. I mean, just give me a pizza or a burger and I'm happy any day. But what did you have for dinner last night?
I had crepe.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
you were telling me about this. Yes, indeed. You had
First the galette, which is the salty version,
uh-huh.
and then the sweet version to round it up.
Round it up.
The gourmet's menu.
I had a cheeseburger.
Chicken McNuggets.
No, they didn't have chicken nuggets. I was very upset they didn't have chicken nuggets, so I had a cheeseburger and had some chips. And, of course, because French are barbarians who don't know anything about food, they didn't put salt on the chips. They gave me mayonnaise instead. And I was like, what is this? Salt, please. But in any case, it was all right. But I was going to say as well, the other thing that's wonderful about Lille is its position. So much history in this area. I spent a good amount of time last year after an event here traveling around northwestern Belgium and visiting all of the graves from World War I, which was of course fought, the Western Front right in this area. Fascinating place to be able to go and see. The beaches of Normandy just a couple of hours away as well if you head out west. And I'm all about it.
Yep. It's also really well connected, especially with the trains. You can go here from Paris, from England, in a few hours.
Yeah. It's been a great weekend for everyone involved. But right now, it is all about magic. It's time to head down to the feature match area with another time walk match for you, and this time Thiago Rodriguez and Louis Del Toro. We caught up with Thiago at breakfast this morning, Simon. He seemed to be in good spirits, and
he caught up with us, I would say.
Yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah, we were sitting there and having a chat, enjoying our croissant. Well, you were enjoying a croissant. I don't know what's going on at breakfast in this stupid continent. Give me some bacon. Give me something hot. Give me bacon and eggs.
You drink a coffee, and if you're lucky, you have a croissant.
Oh, it's awful. Bloody raw pineapple and pain au chocolat and all sorts of other rubbish. In any case, Thiago Rodriguez on Jeskai control. I haven't seen this one too much so far. And Louis Del Toro, of course, on Golgari mid-range. What's this matchup like in a vacuum? It seems like it's a little bit closer than you might think.
Yes. So on the surface, you would think we are looking at a creature deck and an anti-creature deck which favors Jeskai control, which is true, but we are looking at a creature deck that actually has an answer to your planeswalkers. I think that's super, super important. Versus Contents and, of course, Assassin's Trophy. And then the other thing is that Golgari midrange generates, or it potentially generates a ton of value. Now, you don't generate value with Wild Growth Walkers and Brontodons. You need those Explore creatures.
Thiago Rodriguez's list is absolutely sick, by the way. He's playing, obviously, for Teferi. I mean, this is effectively a Jeskai list that is kind of only splashing white. Mm-hmm. It's really heavily blue-red, which is the reason we see Ionize there. It's a little bit easier on the mana than something like a Sinister Sabotage, because it can be cast up a Sacred
But
Fountain.
he does have a lot of white sources in play.
I was going to say, this list has a much heavier white component compared to most Jeskai lists. He's playing 4 copies of Revitalize in the main deck.
Awesome.
Very, very hot. I love it, in conjunction with stuff like Settle the Wreckage, the Mirari Conjecture as well. Great with all these cheap instants and sorceries, Cleansing Nova, and of course, 4 copies of Deafening Clarion. This card's been a game changer.
So, Thiago, I mean, I'm just guessing here, but Thiago basically is saying with this deck choice, I know what to expect, and I trust myself to beat all of it. Because otherwise you can't build a deck like this.
Now, what's happened here, which is interesting, is that Del Toro has got a handful of action. He's got Planeswalkers, he's got all sorts of stuff that he can get going. He's not doing anything else other than resolving this Carnage Tyrant. He knows that that's the best way for him to win this game.
Of course. I mean, everything else will just get countered or removed, or will give Thiago time, which is definitely an important factor here. So let's see what Rodriguez's plan is. Deafening Clarion. Copied? So
double Deafening Clarion will do it. A copy of Deafening Clarion with Expansion Explosion will also do it here, and that's what Rodriguez is going to have to do. You know, needs must. It's very difficult for these white-blue based decks to remove Carnage Tyrant 1-for-1 against a smart opponent here, and leaving up Negate to deal with this Vraska here is perfect for Rodriguez. I think he's in a great spot.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I also love the blink of an eyes.
Oh.
I love the fight with fires. It's amazing.
Just getcha. Taste it, Louis Del Toro. How about 10 damage straight upstairs? Rodriguez is unafraid. He wants to end. He's got stuff to do. He's got people to see, Simon.
Yep. I mean, we know he's a very social person.
He's a busy bloke. He's a busy bloke, and he's going to reveal that he had the final burn spell to.
I think some people might have missed that. He just flashed a second fight with fire when Del Toro tapped out, so he just had lethal.
Just had it, never didn't have it. Easy game for Rodrigo for Thiago Rodriguez as we head to game number 2 now. Del Toro, a better start for him with a Merfolk Branchwalker, going to apply some early pressure. But Rodriguez again with the answer in a copy of Lava Coil, an important card in these red decks.
It might not come as a huge surprise to you, but I would have played a blue-red deck this weekend. And what Thiago brought to the table looks exactly like something that I would enjoy playing.
Now, Del Toro has a Duress, which is a great post-board option, especially in this matchup in particular. And you can see there a diverse buffet here from which Del Toro can choose. Will he go for the pain au chocolat? Will he go for the pineapple? Will he go for that weird lumpy wet bread that you like so much, Simon, with all the pumpkin seeds in it?
I thought you meant the Saint Nicolas crepe that I had yesterday.
Oh, not quite. If they had that on the breakfast buffet, I'd be a happy man. But no, as it is, it's going to be an Ionize that Del Toro munches on and finds a land with his Merfolk Branchwalker.
So Rodriguez is on 0 creatures, right? We are not messing with
two Lyra Dawnbringers and a Shalai in the board.
Okay, but in the main deck, it's just 4 Teferis.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep, and 4 Expansion Explosion as well. Burn them out. As well as those 2 fight with fires, I guess, if you want to do it that way. Here's a Wild Growth Walker for Louis Del Toro. See if he's got something to follow it up with. No. So, at this stage, I like Rodriguez's position.
Absolutely.
I have to do. I do have to say.
You have to do what you have to do.
And Rodriguez right now is doing what he does best. Going to resolve a Mirari's Conjecture here.
Unbelievable.
And return his Ionize. A nice play there from Rodriguez as Del Toro is falling further and further behind. The Eldest Reborn off the top gets in for a rather anemic 3.
Del Toro is just... we can't see it, but he must be shaking his head here.
He must be. If you... And now a Lava Coil as well, back from the Mirari's Conjecture. Is Rodriguez going to have to discard to hand size? He's got a land to play. That might put him back down to 7 cards here.
Land and a removal spell, maybe?
Oh, my goodness. I hope you validated your ticket for this value train, Simon. Because our conductor, Thiago Rodriguez, is taking no prisoners. So 7 cards in hand here. He's not needing to commit any further. He just says, go. I like this. Del Toro has been left in the dust here.
Yep.
Although Rodriguez is going to have to discard thanks to the Eldest Reborn. What's Del Toro bringing back? A Wild Growth Walker?
Yep. I mean, that's one of the saddest the Eldest Reborn we've ever seen.
Yeah. Wasn't really the eldest, was it? It was like the middlest Reborn. He's got Travis McElroy just, slumping onto the table with his painted nails. Looking like a very unhappy chappy. Back to Rodriguez now. Finds a land off the top. That's what he wanted. Now we can start to see some stuff really kick off with the Mirari Conjecture. Start with a Revitalize. Gain 1 billion. Draw 1 million. Man, that's a good... that's a good card when you've got a Mirari's Conjecture, huh? Oh, I love it. And now a Lava Coil as well. Take out both of these Wild Growth Walkers. They're not coming back no more. And what else is there?
Bit more value? Bounce some... I don't know if you want to bounce the Eldest Reborn.
No, probably not. Probably not, to be honest. No, it looks like Rodriguez is just going to let it go. He's got an Ionize up here. He's tapped himself out of white mana. Although I don't know how relevant that's going to be in this situation here, as Del Toro's next play will almost certainly be countered. Gets in with the Merfolk Branchwalker, that Wild Growth Walker being brought back by Travis, of course. And now Rodriguez continues to find land. I mean, he's playing with his food. When's he deploying this Teferi?
No. Teferi, Ionize, your Vrastus content.
Yeah. So that's what he was waiting for. He's waiting for 8 lands. Oh, masterful stuff. Masterful stuff from Rodriguez here. But, a negate even there for Rodriguez.
So untapping into Iron
Into
Eyes.
Iron Eyes, even better. Oh, incredible stuff. I have to say, Rodriguez has just put on a masterclass here.
Yo.
What a show we've seen.
No, and when we're saying that the black-green value engine can fight a fair fight against Jeskai control, it's not against this. It's not against this deck.
Deltour gains some life. The Wild Growth Walker becomes a little larger. Oh, and look at this. Aggressive attacks here from Deltour. He wants to get Rodriguez dead as fast as possible here.
I like that. And then maybe upkeep Contempt the Teferi.
And now?
You know it's getting countered, but at least you're tying up 3 mana.
Tying up a bit of mana there. Yeah, that's right. Rodriguez got a lot of lands. I think he played I think he played 2 lands last turn. I feel like he put a land into play and then played the tapped Sacred Foundry. It wasn't relevant because he could still cast Iron Eyes, but I don't know.
But he has 9 lands now, and he had 8 when he deployed Teferi.
Yeah, and then he played another one. I think he played 2 lands last turn. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he just made an error and played a second land. After having activated the Teferi, I think he drew the Sacred Foundry and played it.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't matter right now. It didn't have any meaningful influence on the game here because now Rodriguez is sort of up to date with his land count. So unfortunate, but still, that's the way that this one has gone here. So with an active Teferi now and a handful of interaction, Rodriguez can find his way forward on 8 life. Simon, he's more or less safe from being taken out from range here from Golgari?
No fight with fires in Golgari mid-range.
Not quite. Search for Azcanta follows up that Lava Coil. I think that's all 3 Wild Growth Walkers in Deltour's list been exiled here. Back to Deltour, finds a Thrashing Brontodon, but a Settle the Wreckage as well. It's going to remove both of these Merfolk Branch Walkers. And we were talking about Settle the Wreckage not being enormously well positioned, but I'll tell you this, Simon, it's a good card against such a recursive deck in terms of getting those creatures into the exile zone.
Deltour doesn't have any creatures left in his graveyard.
No.
So no Find, no Elders Reborn, nothing.
No. Memorial to Folly, also no good. Search for Azcanta is going to get eaten up by that Thrashing Brontodon here. But back to Tiago Rodriguez, who again has this Teferi online. Goes upstairs with it. Finds a land.
And blink of an eye, such an elegant way to make sure that you're quite protected from whatever these decks can do.
2 Vraska's Contempt in hand here for Deltour, and he may look for a chance to pounce on this Teferi here in response to the jumpstart of Chemist's Insight. Going to fire one off immediately. Rodriguez has a blink of an eye, but this isn't going to work out well for him here. Are we going to see a turnaround, Simon?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a
he's drawing 3 cards. Okay,
he's drawing 2 now from
he's
the,
just like down to 1 card. Like,
start.
But no, yeah, 2 freshies off the jump start and 1 from the. He didn't draw from the blink of an eye.
Correctly, because
because it was counted. That's right. Yeah, it was counted. That's right. Yeah. Sorry. Chemist's Insight. 2 more cards now. Of course, this is Time Walk Magic. There's nothing we can do to interfere with anything that's all. This one's already in the books, my friends. And now Rodriguez, nice full grip for him. Iron Eyes in hand.
And there is a Chemist's Insight in the graveyard, but Rodriguez is still playing land, so you can tell that he's not really concerned about value here.
No. He does have that Sacred Foundry to discard, however, so he's going to jumpstart again, draw 2 more cards. I think he found at least 1 more land there in the form of a Plains after the Thrashing Brontodon from Louis Deltour. So, let's see what's next on the menu for Chef Rodriguez. It's another Chemist's Insight. Well, he's gone from having 1 card in hand to about 500,000. So things going well for him here. And a Memorial to Folly. From Louis Deltour.
I'm actually quite impressed that Deltour is still in this game, given that Mirari Conjecture and everything that has happened so far. Chemist's Insight is just amazing.
Yeah, it seems really, really good here. Rodriguez has drawn an excess of lands, and he's been able to put them to good use here, and now revitalize as well. Thiago Rodriguez slurps down a health potion, gains back 3 HP. And now
Unfortunately, Deltour's on 21, so Fight with Fire is...
Oh.
Yeah.
He needs to ionize something. So, 1 million mana available here for Rodriguez, even after having discarded 3 or 4 lands. And across comes the Thrashing Brontodon. Is Rodriguez does not have an answer to the 3/4? No. Okay, we're just going straight upstairs with the explosion here. So, explosion for 9, bring you down to 12. Draw 9 cards.
Is he going to deck himself?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
No, he has a few cards left.
Yeah, he's got a few cards left here, but I tell you what, it's a close thing. Now, he can't quite burn Deltour down from 12.
No, but now he can just... Oh.
No, he's got Fight with Fire. Oh, and a... Oh, even with the kicker, of course, he can copy it just like that. And that's enough for Deltour to pack him up. Rodriguez is able to 20 his opponent with the wombo combo of Expansion and Fight with Fire. And that's the game of Magic. That's how you get it done there. A masterclass from Thiago Rodriguez there. I hope to see more of this Jeskai list.
Me too. Awesome stuff. I love the 0 creature approach. Just all the good spells. You want those 4 Chemist's Insight, and then it also makes sense to once again have that Settle the Wreckage, because you're not tapping out. For what? Why would you tap out for anything?
Well, we talked a little bit before about the I guess the dimension, the different sort of configurations that you can have with the Teferi list. And this one here, played by Thiago Rodriguez, is not even a red-blue deck splashing white. It's a white. It's a white-blue deck splashing red. It's not playing any mountains. It's playing 3 islands, 3 plains. And from that, you can very clearly see that the red, I mean, even though there are double red spells in it, like, for example, Explosion. I mean, I guess it's a very late game card, so it's fine. But still, this deck is, again, a sort of a separate sub-archetype of a grand overall macro archetype.
And from my experience, which is only these games that we've just seen, it's somehow a sub-archetype that should be really good against the Golgari decks that think they beat control.
Yeah.
Because Carnage Tyrant, honestly, I don't think Thiago is scared of Carnage Tyrant.
I don't think so. No, with both Cleansing Nova and Settle the Wreckage, not to mention the Deafening Clarion, either double Deafening Clarion or expansion into Deafening Clarion. I think the 7/6 is manageable, right, for this Jeskai list, and it may be the configuration moving forward. No Crackling Drakes, no Niv Mizzet, just straight up hard creatureless control.
No, and you are already. You're always in this bind with Niv Mizzet or also Crackling Drake. Do you play it and then just get it Ravenous Chupacabra? Is that really an exchange you want to make? I've heard people say that's actually fine because they're not deploying something scary, but I think it's much better if they just have a 4-mana tutor in the deck.
I agree.
That doesn't do anything.
I agree. I think that you gain so much by completely blanking all the... I mean, sure, you draw a card off your Crackling Drake, you draw a card off your Niv Mizzet, whatever, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you can just completely blank even 10% of your opponent's deck, even 5% of your opponent's deck, right? That's a huge advantage that you've got in terms of having them just draw a piece of cardboard that does a stone cold nothing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've got more Time Walk Magic, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up coverage of round number 4. So let's Growth Walker. But I don't know. I'm really fascinated to see what the best build of this list looks like.
Absolutely, and we have seen Dominguez with those 3 Carnage Tyrants and then find finality, and that looks to be a really good plan for this weekend. Not that it's particularly subtle or anything, but it works.
Another Explore creature now for Mengucci. I bet he wishes he had a Wild Growth Walker out, but it's all Larson right now when it comes to that action at least. Finds his 3rd land. It's a boon for him here. The Dane was missing land drops, hitting Llanowar Elves instead. And Simon, I have to say, it's a very pleasing change of pace for me to see a bunch of X1s getting played in Standard.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny to me how the black-green deck has all these creatures that die to finality. So it's somehow a good card in the mirror match, but only, of course, if you get to keep something huge. Because otherwise, it's just a symmetrical effect, and you might even get punished by a Ravenous Chupacabra that had been held back.
Vivian Reed, the play here for Mengucci. And he finds a land. Woodland Cemetery there for Mengucci. And he's going to be able to defend this Vivian Reed reasonably well, although if Larson has something like a Vraska's Contempt, of course, that could all go awry very fast. Doesn't look like he does, however. For just 2 mana, here's a Merfolk Branchwalker, triggers the Wild Growth Walker, reveals a Jadelight Ranger. Look at this.
And this is the interesting spot here, where the Vivian is now under pressure, and Mengucci doesn't have. Well, he has significantly weaker creatures on his side of the battlefield. Didn't have that Wild Growth Walker. Can't really fight with the 3/4 very well, and is running into removal, of course.
And so now a cast down is going to tear up this double block here for Larson as we see Vivian Reed's loyalty very aggressively adjusted by the Dane himself. Mengucci going to activate his Planeswalker once again. Have a look and see what he likes out of this. A Llanowar Elves, an underwhelming pick here for the Italian. But a Carnage Tyrant's a great play for Mengucci now as we move back to Larson, who finds an Overgrown Tomb off the top. Vraska's Contempt in hand for him, Jadelight Ranger as well.
I have to say, if I look at these lists and I see 2 Carnage Tyrant and 2 Finality versus 3 Carnage Tyrants and 3 Finality, Mengu has to have an upper hand in this matchup.
Just purely on the numbers.
Yep.
Well, let's see what Larson wants to do. As I say, Jadelight Ranger in hand for him, I think. Oh no, he put it in the bin. Looks like he's not interested in channeling his inner Leif Erikson here. Doesn't want to continue the grand tradition of Scandinavian explorers and go off to Newfoundland here. Very happy to sit at home and watch the handball on telly. 6 mana, however, for Larson, and what's this going to be? Vraska Relic Seeker. Immediately makes a little pirate, up to 8 loyalty. And it's also great to see this card getting some play in Standard as well. So, Mengucci, sitting pretty behind his big dino here. See what his next move is going to be. He does have this Vivian Reed online as well, so it's all mythics all day here for the Italian. That's just 4 lands off the top with that Vivian Reed. 3 forests and a Memorial to Folly. Takes the forest.
Okay, that means he has plans to use all of his mana this turn.
Otherwise, you just take the value land, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very little reason not to.
A second Carnage Tyrant as well here now for Mengu. As well as a Llanowar Elves there, so using all 7 mana available to him here. And Larson, with the Vraska's Contempt to remove the Vivian Reed from the equation, goes upstairs with his Vraska on 10 loyalty now. Look at this. Shuffles through the enormous pile of tokens we have at the ready. And there's his second little pirate. The first mate arrives. Back to Gucci Boy, who finds another copy of Vivian Reed. May not be too unhappy to have had that one unlocked if it was stranded in his hand. And this is a nice value engine here for the Italian.
It is, but at the same time, you actually want to find finality. And Vivian doesn't do that, so you kind of have to jump through a lot of hoops. You need to get those Jade Light Rangers, maybe Midnight Reaper, but you don't just want to send in the clowns. Oh, actually you do.
Actually you do, Simon. I'll stop you there because that is exactly what you want to do according to Andrea Mengucci. Always attack, never block.
That's clearly aggressive.
And now Larsen's going to be able to line up some blocks, but of course, any way you slice it, Gucci's going to get his value. It's either going to...
Whoa. I mean, Larsen is not pressed into blocking. We can do all kinds of stuff here.
Oh, yeah?
Or just maybe take down a Tyrant, because killing Tyrant is... These Tyrants were threatening to just take over the game with a single finality, because then the game is just over. So now Mengucci gives Larsen that opportunity to deal with the Tyrants, and I would be very surprised if Larsen gives Mengucci extra cards by blocking one of the small creatures.
All right, well, Larsen is going to line up, looks like some triple blocks here. Once these dinosaurs off the table, we've sped things up to double speed here, Simon. We are really going at the speed of light, it looks like. And now, let's see if Larsen's blocks are going to come off as he wanted them to. It looks like, yes, they will. Vraska down to 6 loyalty, down from 10. And kind of just how many creatures died here, because Gucci Boy, of course, going to draw a stack of cards here. Down to 17 after having drawn 3 cards. Back to Larsen now.
I really like double blocking the two, or triple blocking the 2 Tyrants. I'm not so sure about that other trade. I think 2 loyalty on your Vraska would have been fine to give up.
Right, rather than giving Gucci an extra card. Back to Mengucci now.
But if Larsen didn't have a clean answer to the Midnight Reaper anyway, then he was probably figuring, I need to block this 2-1 anyway, sooner or later.
And Larsen now deploys a Vivian Reed right in the middle of his creatures, which I really like. He's always been a man for quite aggressive permanent placement, and it's good to see him really just mixing it up here. Mengucci going to send in an attack now and immediately trades off the Midnight Reaper. It drew him 4 cards. He can't complain about that. With a nice full grip. Really impressed by Midnight Reaper there. This deck's super cool. This deck is super, super, super cool.
We've talked before about these nuances, these tiny things. And this is one of these situations where I'm wondering, wouldn't it have been much better for Mengucci to have a Memorial to Folly, rather than having that one turn, that additional mana to deploy a Llanowar Elves? Because ultimately, it's all about Carnage Tyrant. You need to be on the battlefield.
Well, here is that Carnage Tyrant now for Christopher Larsen after Mengucci deploys a couple of little goons. And already that Vraska, is that 13 loyalty?
Yep.
How did that happen?
Oh, it made a pirate every turn.
But she was on 6 loyalty. Well, it doesn't matter how many loyalty she's on now. Over here on 13. Look at that. Whew. My goodness. Very loyal Planeswalker.
She is.
Very, very loyal.
Surprisingly, actually.
Yeah, you have to bloody wipe her memory to get her to leave you alone. That isn't obviously why Jace did it. Obviously, there's a grand plan for those. I'm sorry, I'm well aware of the whole situation. I don't think Jace was doing it because he didn't like the attention that Vraska was giving him. Quite the opposite, in fact. So, Mengucci. Stack of lands available. Larsen is going to have to line up some blocks here. Mengucci contesting heavily. We'll see what his plan is. Has his Golgari Finebroker eaten up, and Vraska Relic Seeker goes down to 11 now. Back to Larsen. Or does Mengucci have other plays to make? You would think he would.
He has a handful of cards. He could reanimate some Tyrants, just drop some other Explore creatures. A lot of options.
Yep. Here we go. Andrea Mengucci channeling his inner Christopher Columbus, proud Italian. take... Actually, no, Christopher Columbus was not a very good explorer. Let's not go with him. Who we go with? Amerigo Vespucci. Much better. Much better at what he did. And his fine finality as well. Going to keep that Seeker's Squire around and clear off everything else, including, of course, that Carnage Tyrant. Oh! Vespucci. Look at him go.
And that was kind of the whole idea of these aggressive attacks. And finality is the card that you have to work towards.
And certainly done the job for Mengucci Vespucci here, as he's got a bunch of explore triggers that have enabled him to build up quite a respectable little force here. Merfolk Branchwalker now for Christopher Larson. But it's another Vraska's Contempt here from the Dane that's going to take care of the opposing Planeswalker, Vivian Reed taking a dirt nap. And Larson aimlessly, fruitlessly looking for that 13 on the 12-sided die, ultimately puts his Vraska back up to 13 loyalty. Still confused as to how exactly she got there, but here is the Ravenous Chupacabra once again to contain the battlefield, and in come the clowns. Big attack for Mengucci now. Larson blocks. Vraska down to 9 loyalty. Larson on 28 life, if you can believe it. And now a Vivian Reed emblem, Simon. So, Ravenous Chupacabra at the follow-up for Larson. And at double speed, a whole lot of nothing still happening, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Larson has ultimated Vivian Reed, but...
And a game one handshake for these two here, but ultimately, as we bring it back to the booth, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you what, that one got away from us pretty fast. Don't know exactly what happened there, but we can announce the result of the match, Simon.
Yes, Andrea Mengucci wins 2-1, and I think that he conceded game one because of the ultimate of Vivian Reed.
Yeah, it was a tangled mess at the end there, my friends, but we got through it in one piece. In any case, we're going to jump out of here. We're going to go to a break and give time here for Tim and Moraine to get stuck in, because round number 5 will be in there. Capable of strong arms, ladies and gentlemen. So stick around for that. But right now, we'll go to a break. We'll see you back here after this.